Bienvenue tous. Welcome to Reporters here on France 24. In this edition, a city at war with a president. Nicaragua is in the grip of unrest. President Daniel Ortega is accused of running a corrupt and violent regime. The rebel city of Masaya is at the heart of all this anger. The authorities have lost control. Police scared to patrol. Masked rebels roaming the streets. It's a place Ortega knows all too well. His own brother was killed there when they were both rebel fighters. It's the home of the Sandinista movement that overthrew the former dictatorship in the late 1970s. Ortega usually makes a pilgrimage there each year. This year, he'd be far from welcome. Meanwhile, international concern grows over Nicaragua, where there's been over 130 deaths since protests began in mid-April. Well, the city of Masaya. Let's put that question to our correspondent, Lawrence Kavir, who joins us now. Lawrence, why is Masaya the centre of all this anger right now?
Well, Masaya had remained one of the most symbolic points after the Sandinist revolution. This is where the Sandinist fighters had gathered on what was called the Withdrawal Day, and from that point they launched the final assault against the Somoza dictatorship. So it had kept this tradition of being a rebel center point.
The symbolism is all too clear. Lawrence, thank you very much indeed. Let's take a look now at our report by Lawrence Kavir. Masaya, the rebel city.
This is what a city in the grips of a revolution looks like. Managua, the capital of Nicaragua. Anti-Ortega slogans cover the walls and everything is shut down. One of the key routes in is sealed off. It's the one that connects to the city of Masaya. This is what's happening 14 kilometers along it. Masks, slingshots and homemade mortars. This is a rebellion against a president who's been firing back with real ammunition for months.
The
fact that he's attacked unarmed students, sent thugs out against us while we were just protesting, that's so unfair. That was the trigger for all of this. It's sad because so many people believed in him.
Until now, younger Nicaraguans only heard about guerrilla fighting from old Sandinista revolutionaries.
It's sad for my generation to live through this again with our grandchildren. My grandson is there and I feel like all the young people there are my children or grandchildren.
LUISA is a former Sandinista guerrilla. Now she feels betrayed by Daniel Ortega. Her grandson Ernesto is a medical student, but his university's been closed down for several weeks. A crowd gathers in front of the checkpoint.
We just stopped the driver of a pickup truck who we thought belonged to a Sandinista group because he had guns on him.
They have one mission: stop the government from getting into Masaya, the heart of the revolution. But without clear leadership, the group is fractured.
No. No, estén ponchando ahorita. No es policía.
They eventually free the suspect, but keep his weapons and pickup truck. The protesters decide to let us continue our journey to the heart of the uprising in Masaya. There are barricades surrounding the city. Everyone's living on edge. 100 police officers have set up camp in the police station downtown and have been shooting at protesters.
We've heard they're trying to smuggle ammunition in because they've run out. And the government's goal is to rescue all the people there.
It's an eerie scene. There are no cars, the shops are all shuttered, and there are little blockades on every street. Everyone's tiptoeing around, trying to avoid the police's bullets.
Nicaragua is such a beautiful country. We still have so much wealth to discover. And it's horrible that this is happening to us.
Look at the streets. Look at the state they're in.
It wasn't like that before. It's all in ruins.
We make it to the heart of the uprising, the district of Monimbo. Here they're frantically patching together a revolution without any weapons and without food. In a now deserted private school, Father Augusto Gutierrez oversees the handouts. 250 kilograms of fish. This is the day's catch from a supporter who travelled hours through endless checkpoints to get it to them.
It's been almost a month since we had meat or fish because of the crisis in the country.
Father Augusto had no reservations about supporting the protesters.
When the government flagrantly and unfairly attacks innocent people, as men of the church, we must defend them.
But the sounds of shots snap everyone back to reality. Just 2 streets down, the police open fire in an ambush.
They're always in the tower over there, near the old market. It's just 100 meters away. That's why people only come here from north to south. Over there to the west, it's dangerous. It's like a civil war, except we're unarmed. We only have mortars and slingshots.
A local man was hit in the attack.
The sniper shot him in the head.
Do you know him?
It's my brother.
Each new victim fuels the fury against the Sandinista regime.
Come on, Mom, let's go.
The police made a promise in front of the Nicaraguan flag to defend the people, but they're turning their firepower on us, killing us without mercy. On the other hand, when we, the people of Monimbo, catch the policemen, we're letting them go alive without even a scratch on them.
Those wounded get treated here in this makeshift clinic.
People bring the wounded here because they know there are police in front of the public hospital. And when we take someone injured there, the police wait for them to get first aid and then detain them. At first, we didn't have any of this. Everything you can see are donations from local people or the church.
The first casualties were treated on the ground with whatever supplies they could find. The victims are seen as martyrs of a murderous state. In the late 1970s, Monimbo was a hotbed of the Sandinista revolution. Most of these young people are children of the guerrillas, Daniel Ortega's own former comrades. "20 young people from Monimbo have already been killed, and the clashes are getting more violent every week."
Last weekend, 10 young people from the town were killed. We've run out of space for all the names.
For them, there's only one person to blame: Ortega, the former revolutionary who's shooting his own people. The anger against the failed hopes of the Sandinista revolution is everywhere.
Before, all the walls were covered and had murals with the Sandinista party colours, red and black. But now you can see everything has got the country's colours, white and blue.
There's a question dividing the protesters. What should they do about the police hold up in the police station?
He's hiding there in the Masaya police station.
Are you going to let the policemen out unharmed?
No, we won't even send their bodies to their families. We'll dump them on street corners and the families can find them for themselves.
The protesters haven't killed anyone yet, perhaps thanks to their lack of weapons. But without clear leadership, the situation is volatile. We take the road back to Managua. The sun sets on the checkpoint at the kilometre 14 marker. After more than 24 hours without sleep, Ernesto finally takes a break to see his family and girlfriend.
It's exhausting but thrilling. It's beautiful to see that we're all here. We're all trying to achieve the same thing.
Ernesto's grandmother was a guerrilla fighter, but his grandfather turned against the Sandinista revolution long ago. They're no strangers to living with conflicting opinions.
I'm old now, but yes, I feel like I want to grab a gun again. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm proud to have been a Sandinista. Every time Daniel Ortega ran for election, I voted for him. But he's betrayed all our principles, every single one.
Ernesto grew up watching Daniel Ortega become increasingly authoritarian. But it wasn't until April 19th, when police shot at protesters for the first time, that everything kicked off.
When the crisis began, I remember things that my grandmother and parents had told me about the war. What it was like to walk down the street, terrified of the police. But to have actually seen all these people wounded or dead, it's changed everything for me. It's something I'll never forget.
How do you picture the future for your country?
Sandinismo has had its chance, and Daniel Ortega ruined it. He murdered that dream. So now the people need to start things over. We need people who really fight for the good of this country. Nobody wants history to repeat itself, neither the young nor the old people.
Ernesto's break is short-lived. His nursing colleagues are waiting for him back at the medical post by the checkpoint. Ortega's family run most of the press outlets, and there's a stream of misinformation. All people here can do is laugh it off.
We're going to be given diplomas as terrorists.
What did they say?
They say they found marijuana, cocaine, guns and weapons in the students' cars. But you've seen it for yourselves. We only have slingshots and small mortars to defend our checkpoint. If we had everything they say, we wouldn't have had so many people killed on our side.
Many of these doctors were working in public hospitals just last month. They were fired for being seen with protesters. For them, like for countless Nicaraguans, the country's reached a breaking point, a point of no return. They won't take any more of Ortega's regime. On the road to Masaya, the blockades are growing bigger every day, just like the protesters' determination.
Our reporter Laurence Cuvillier is still with us. Laurence, thank you for that fascinating film, that fascinating insight into what's happening in Nicaragua at the moment. I wonder how Daniel Ortega went from hero to villain.
Well, Daniel Ortega was kind of a second-line hero. The real charismatic leader was his brother, who finally never came into power. Daniel Ortega was put at the head of the state to make sure that the ideals of the Sandinist revolution would be kept safe. And as years went by, he kind of locked up the country by putting his own family members in strategic positions at the head of the state. He named his wife as vice president. He named his son-in-law as interior ministry, security minister. And many of his sons are now in very high positions in the media network. So Ortega, year after year, made sure that he would keep a grip on the country.
So far, the anger, Laurence, centred on Masaya, but I wonder if the anti-Ortega feeling is spreading across Nicaragua.
Well, there is a limit to this anti-Ortega feeling. It's fear. And it was very tangible one day when we went to a market to interview shopkeepers. We noticed how the shopkeepers were afraid to speak up against Daniel Ortega. And after a few minutes, we noticed how two men had started following us and filming us. And this is how we noticed that Daniel Ortega still has a very strong grip on the freedom of speech.
And briefly, Laurence, how much longer can this go on, given the international concern about what's happening?
Well, it's difficult to say because so far the attempts of negotiations did not give any good results. The church is still on the first line to try and negotiate with the Daniel Ortega government. But so far, Daniel Ortega kept on saying that he would think of the proposals that the church brought him and give an answer. But the answer is not coming so far.
Thank you very much indeed. See Laurence's film again via our website, france24.com. This is Reporters on France 24. Stay with us.